I'm at London Heathrow Terminal 5 this afternoon, taking a flight with British Airways up to Manchester. First of all, I'm going to check out the lounge. Let's see what they've got to offer. I'll catch you in a bit. At first impressions of the outside, it's almost completely covered in signs telling you not to do things. The entrance was between some really massive signs, with a very small "Welcome to Terminal 5" just about visible above the doors. What do you think of the frontage? I'd be interested to know in the comments below. As you can see, it was very quiet in the enormous departures hall, especially the unused check-in queue lines, which you have to walk past before you get to security and passport control. Again, there's hardly any wait time at the moment, and because of that, there's no need for a fast track lane today. In fact, I think this has been closed for some time now. And once airside, it is again unusually quiet, even compared to late summer 2020, which was the last time I passed through this area. After presenting my boarding card in the usual way, I proceeded past the double horses with lamps on their heads guarding the entrance. I'm sure these were somewhere else last time I was here. Anybody know? Now I always like to try and find a seat by the window in the lounge so I can watch the movements outside. This was harder than I thought today, but I eventually settled on a table with some kind of charging point tower in the middle, which was great. I had plenty of stuff that needed re-energising anyway, including myself. Luckily runway 9R was in use today, so I had some great views of the aircraft from here. Now, to order food and drink, what you have to do is scan the QR code for your specific table, and then that brings up the menu. I opted for the mini steak pie and mash with gravy, which I must say was quite nice, along with a couple of glasses of Coke and a coffee or two. Unfortunately, at the time of filming, there was no alcohol available due to yet more government restrictions. Now, I believe this has changed recently, which is good to see. And I noticed a pretty cool looking air freshener in the corner, which was giving off a pleasant odour without being too overpowering. Afternoon tea followed, which was basically a few sandwiches, but these were fresh, tasty and well presented. All in all, I was really happy with the lounge experience on my visit today. The atmosphere was relaxed, the service friendly and efficient, and obviously you can order as much as you want of whatever you want. Well, it was soon time to leave, so I headed down to the gate. Now I found some really nice lounger type chairs which I tried out just prior to being called for boarding, and they had some great views over the ramp. Right, so onto the flight, and this was your typical British Airways connecting service to Manchester. A nice short flight, up and down in around half an hour, no dramas, great. Well, only this time it wasn't. Hello, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Hiya. Boarding was fine, the staff were friendly and welcoming, but as I made my way to my seat, I already suspected the worst. Yeah, two young families in front and behind me, and their kids, had already started attacking their surroundings with intent to cause the maximum amount of mess and annoyance possible. Now, don't get me wrong, I know how it is with young kids and flights. I took mine on aircraft regularly when they were very young, and sometimes the pressure in the cabin can cause issues. But my tolerance wears rather thin when they're kicking the seats in front, my seat. They're throwing food all over the place, and shouting and screaming for the whole flight whilst their parents don't do anything to control them, and show a complete disregard for their fellow passengers, and a lack of respect for the aircraft and the crew. Now, ordinarily, I would have moved. There were some spare seats available, but I'd already got my camera set up and was hoping, naively, that they might have STFU'd by the time the flight had taken off. Anyway, they didn't, so I spent the next half an hour in a particularly bad mood, whilst trying to take my mind off things by testing out the table, which was clean, with the coat hooks in the side of the seat, and the legroom, and note the floor, which was already covered in crisps by this stage. In the absence of any buy-on-board service, we were offered the now standard bag of crisps and bottle of water, which is better than nothing, to be fair. I saved mine until we'd landed, and it provided more ammunition for the kids front of me to use in the meantime. Mercifully, we touched down in Manchester on time, and in surprisingly good weather too. As per usual, Manchester ground staff weren't expecting any aircraft, and so we had to wait for about 20 minutes until they brought some steps around. We were bundled into a couple of buses and taken on a tour of the airport, finally arriving at Terminal 1 where the bus driver had to ring for somebody to come and open the door, which again took ages. And finally somebody showed up and we were free. I quickly made my way through the exit, walking past the famous non-travelating travelator as I headed for the station, and some well-deserved peace and quiet, believe you me. Just got my train from Manchester Airport railway station, taking me to Piccadilly. I tell you what, that was the worst flight ever. It was like the minute I sat down, I was in the middle of a screaming sandwich. I've got a seat kicker behind me, somebody dropping crisps all over the shop in front of me, and two real small kids screaming that parents couldn't control them. Thank God it was only half an hour, that's all I can say. We got to Manchester, and it's funny, Manchester Airport, it's almost as if it's an airport that isn't expecting any airplanes to land. It takes them ages to get the steps up to the door, and it takes ages for a bus to come. And then the bus takes us to domestic arrivals, and it's like they're not expecting anybody to turn up. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And
arriving at Heald Green.
I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to my channel. There's still plenty more to come. I shall see you again soon. Cheers for now.
And please remember to keep